All right. We're back for another episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Marie Parker, COO at Boulder. What can you tell us about Boulder?
That's right. We are your ethical outsourcing partner. So we're the largest B Corp certified global outsourcing company, or BPO, I guess is what we're typically known as. We prefer to talk about helping companies build their teams, because I really feel like in the outsourcing industry, it's easy to get pigeonholed, and a lot of companies thrive on specializing in a certain area. And we're really leaning into the fact that talent is equally distributed in the world, but opportunity is not. And the markets that we operate in, we've cracked the nut on how to find talent there, so we can find talent in any area of the business, and we can help distribute opportunities in a way that's really economically beneficial to all parties. And we focused very much on shifting the way that the outsourcing industry has worked in the past, and typically the team member in the community and where you're finding the talent in tends to get marginalized in the transaction. And so Boulder's all about making sure that doesn't happen. The team member gets supported. We invest in the communities. And the communities that we specialize in is the Philippines, South Africa, Mexico, and Canada. That's
all amazing places. Particularly, I think South Africa right now is a very interesting labor market, and there's some unbelievably talented people there that just don't have access to jobs like we do here in the West.
That's exactly it. Yeah, South Africa is pretty unique, and I'm going to lie about the percentage now, but I know it's north of 30% official unemployment rate. So there's an unemployment crisis, which really does lend to incredible talent being available. We've got a lot of our management, a lot of our leadership team is actually based in South Africa at this point.
There you go. Well, for everyone who isn't running a 1,500 person company, so outsourcing, just as I understand it, and I'm going to step all over my feet explaining this, but as I understand it, there are like 3 or 4 different ways you can hire. You can hire directly, you can hire fractionally, like through a recruiter that takes a margin on top of it, or as I understand it, you can work with like a BPO firm that can help hire, train in place. And there's all kinds of dimensionality within the BPO space. Like some just place people, some give you someone to directly manage. And I think you guys are unique because you have your own process development system, right? So you understand the processes that you're placing, or was this 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's a little bit. So we have 2 core service offerings that I think is also unique, is you'll typically find either an employer of record model or you'll find a managed outsourcing model. We do both. So we have that flexibility for potential clients or for clients, where in an employer of record model, we just do the hiring, a really white glove service. We'll find the perfect person for the role. But then once they're hired, you're leveraging our infrastructure to pay them, to make sure that they're legally employed, they get all the benefits and all the good, yummy stuff. But you manage them directly. They're your team members. So we're not responsible for their performance. Whereas the managed outsourcing, I think, is what you're alluding to, where we will dive deep to understand your processes. We will help you optimize your processes, internalize that, create the standard operating procedures and so forth, and then train the team for you. And you get to hold us accountable for the service delivery. So we manage the team members, we manage performance, and we execute against an SLA or an agreement that is around performance indicators, instead of just provide you managing the team directly. So we do both. It's kind of cool.
I think the funny thing about the space is companies need to be a little more mature, a little older, to realize that businesses like yours exist. But to a small growing company, I mean, even just the managed service to help install some process without hiring or taking out a loan or raising money to hire is such a massive lift, and the productivity boost you get on top of it's just gravy. So it's a really amazing space.
It can be very powerful. And I've had the pleasure of meeting in person with a couple of clients just last week, and the one individual went on and on and on about how she couldn't live with these team members that support her. But what I love about having these anecdotal conversations with our clients was to get that juicy bit of how it's impacted her as an individual and in her quality of life and the stress. It's like what you mentioned, the lift that you have when it's all on you. versus when you have a partner and you can spread the work in a way that you're just like, hey, if something happens to me today, things are going to keep going. Like things are okay. Like I've got help and support. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that must be why you guys have grown so fast. It's been a bit of a ride.
Yes.
Well, amazing.
Fun ride.
And tell us, we were talking about this before the podcast, but so you're the chief operating officer, and we were talking about the mission of bad ideas and how like the people who make the work are the ones who create the real value. And like you're the boss of that. Tell us about, what the day-to-day occupies for a COO at a company your size.
It's a lot. I think the unique COO role is unique in that I don't think any two COOs have the same job. So it really depends on your company, how it's structured, and what the C-suite looks like. So today for Boulder, it's just our C-suite is myself and David. So it's our CEO and founder and myself. And so we've kind of just divided and conquered, and he handles most of the revenue generating and front end of the house, and I'm like kind of the back end and operations side of it. So it's a lot of context switching, and it's a lot of when you're leading through leaders and leading through senior leadership, there's a lot of guiding and coaching that is not a lot of the doing of work, but it's keeping track of, hey, what is IT doing that's impacting finance, that's impacting, HR, and like just keeping that whole picture together and making sure that the individuals that are leading those different departments aren't working in silos and that they're actually working together as a team. I've been like pretty inspired by Patrick Lencioni's, he's got so many good books, and I hope I pronounced his name right, but the one, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And I love that there's like a scene in that book. I think it's the cutest thing because it's like a little telenovela. It's super easy to read and all the drama. And I love where this fictional CEO sits around the table with her leadership team and she's like, hey, who's your first team? And the instinct of a leader of a division like that would be the people reporting to them, but coming to the realization that it's the people around the table and it's actually your peers. So I think a lot of the work for me is making sure that they're operating as a team and that you're not just like focusing in your silos and getting lost in your day-to-day work. There's a lot of that, keeping track of our performance, like OKRs, and and then there's the like receivables and payables and just making sure that everything is ticking along.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so you're true that every COO has kind of a different role because every company has its own kind of process system. But what I think is most special about the COO role is like when you're kind of building the way that all these different departments work in concert and conducting it at the same time. Yeah. And that's, one of the big things that I learned about business by kind of falling into it backwards was that it isn't about having this big, crazy idea. It's about like how the idea is built and like learning about roles like yours that, people exist who manage 50,000 tethers at the same time effectively and understand how to make all those things play nicely, which in spite the hundreds of books I've read, I still haven't figured out yet. So much respect.
I don't think anybody's figured it out. I think that's a fallacy. Like, we're doing the best we can with what we have and learning. That's it.
All right. Well, without further ado, and thank you for walking us through all that. It's an amazing company and cool for everyone to kind of understand where your perspective is coming from. Now we're gonna look at a really bad idea. One that we probably wouldn't want to build, and then talk about why it's bad. And when we run out of bad stuff, we'll talk about how to make it good. Does that sound good?
Yep, that sounds great.
Let's see what we have today. Sweaty palms.
100%.
So the bad idea is inconvenience stores. Why make shopping easy when it can be inconvenient? Our stores specialize in stocking hard-to-find items and none of what you'd expect to see on a shop on the corner.
Hard to find and not is it again hard to find and none of what you can see?
None of what you'd expect to find. It's like the opposite of a 7-Eleven. Yep. So the things that you run to the store to typically get are not there, and things that you wouldn't find, I'm assuming, in like a Stop and Shop or a 7-Eleven are there.
So there's like tires or like some random
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
car parts that you never really need.
Well, do you ever, I mean, you go to the gas station, you need something for your car, you need something for your bath because it's 3 a.m. and you didn't stock up and nothing else is open. And they always seem to be like just short of everything that you need. There's like,
100%.
I imagine.
Yeah, I ran to 7-Eleven recently because I couldn't find, it was a silly story, couldn't find a wine bottle opener, which is it's a very like urgent matter on a Friday night. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And you'd think they would have that, but no.
No, nothing. So this seems like the opposite, right? It's inconvenient. They only have the things that you can't find anywhere else. So I imagine on the one hand, they think that they're going to attract a lot of people who couldn't find something somewhere else. So like, let's go to the Inconvenience Store. They might have it. But at the same time, you're losing all of your upsells because aren't convenience stores, most of the margins made in the candy, right? Like when you're checking out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I could totally picture the idea of, there's just one thing that's like hard for me to find. I'm going to create a store where like it's easy to find that thing. And then, but if you only need it like once a year, that's why it's hard to find. Then yeah, you're not going to browse around and be like, hey, I really needed spark plugs now that I see one. Like, just something.
Yeah, right. What else is in this store that I don't regularly need, but now that I'm here, I'll shop for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
While I'm here, might as well get a bookshelf. I don't know. Like, what's the random things that you only buy?
Yeah, it's just marginal things. But the fact that we can't even think of them is kind of like a doomsday for the marketing of this store. It's just not going to work. The other problem that comes to mind for me is just inventory management, because if you're selling things that are kind of unique, like how do you know what to stock and supply? And I find that particularly interesting because I'm talking to you, and most people don't really think about like human labor as like supply, when it's the most valuable supply there is. And I imagine you guys have kind of built a way to like figure out how to calibrate to demand. So you're not like hiring like crazy and then, downsizing.
That's exactly right. And my previous life before Boulder, I spent like 16 years of my career in logistics. So my mind went exactly there. I'm like, oh no, I know that's a disaster.
Yeah.
Supply chain management would be really, really difficult.
Like how do you stock something that people might need?
Would never know if you need it again. Like, yeah, that would be super complicated.
That brings up the even bigger problem. So if something isn't needed all the time, is it just by default impossible to get, or like really inconvenient to get? Like, is it doomed to be something that's specialized because it's not something you need frequently? Like that seems like a big business problem, but I don't know how you solve it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know either. Yeah, and that would like naturally make it not a low price point item if you think about that.
Yeah, everything would be super expensive.
Yeah, so this is not something that it's a frivolous purchase, which again, it's not convenient. And impulse buys are highly improbable. Going back to your note earlier about the impulse purchases being like where you actually make your money out of these situations.
So basically, we're decreasing the value per customer and we're significantly increasing the cost of inventory and sales.
Yeah, this is not going to work.
Yeah, this is a bad idea. But we're also highlighting, I mean, this is a huge gap, right? We're kind of in this mass production economy. And we have an episode we recorded a week or two ago with the vice president of technology for Amazon Logistics. Yeah. We spent that entire show talking about like how they're bringing everything to immediate and how they're building like storage and logistics systems to make sure you get everything like right away. But they're making these same decisions. Like, this is not going to sell beyond a volume of X, so I can't, I can't store or ship that much of it. But like, they're conditioning us to be so used to getting everything right away and finding everything right away. Yeah. That stuff like this, I mean, does it disappear? Like, where does it, are we paying like $200 for a wine opener on Friday night because we can't find it?
Desperate and I can't get that 1 hour delivery.
Yeah, right. You're getting an airlifted wine opener. Where does it go? I mean, that is a big problem, but you can't, how do you economically solve that? And Inconvenience Store is probably not the right approach.
Yeah, I don't think inconvenience stores is the right approach, but I mean, the reality of what happens is that it's somebody who's willing to specialize and just be that, like, this is the store where you can find this one random thing and you're going to go narrow but deep instead of the Amazon model that is, broad and everything you can have.
Yeah.
Then there are these ones that really specialize. And it makes me think of, like, there's a South African product. It's called biltong. I grew up in South Africa. I don't know if I mentioned that before.
Oh wow! I didn't. I brought up South Africa without knowing that. So forgive me for going straight there. But
no, that's fine. That's where I grew up, and so we grew up with this, like, biltong. It's basically beef jerky, but it's made in a different process. And we eat it the way, like, Americans will eat nachos or, like, cheese and crackers or whatever. Like, it's just always like a snack, a very common snack. But in the US, it's really difficult to find. And there's this, like, one little store in, I think, San Diego somewhere, where this guy, like, specializes in it, but he doesn't have a website. He has no e-commerce. You have to call him and place your order manually and go and get it. But that's his jam. So it's inconvenient. But I guess that's the solution, is that either figure out to do it yourself, or you got to find, somebody's got to go deep in order and specialize in this one thing for it to be remotely economical from a business perspective.
Well, here comes an ad-libbed bad business idea to attempt to solve this problem. Because like I hate niching down. Niching down freaks me out, because then you're limiting your consumer base, and I feel like you always need to have a massive consumer base to be able to have a ceiling or be able to pivot if you need to, which I know is not true. It's just a personal paranoia. But so the bad idea here is maybe you take advantage of the Amazons and the Walmarts by building some sort of algorithm that keeps track of what they're not stocking in store. So that's what controls your demand. So it's like algorithmic based, and you can make sure that your store always has what they don't.
Yeah. I love that. You're like the not Amazon store.
The anti-Amazon store. I imagine Walmart's doing that literally right now in some capacity, but but that wouldn't be super crazy if you could figure out what top items the major stores and retailers are not carrying, like in real time, and you could find ways to stock those. And I imagine in logistics, you got to do some sort of hedging against sales, like you buy against what you think the demand's going to be.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's usually based on historical trends. So you need to have some data, some track record there. Which, that's an interesting thought. I mean, I'd want to assume that they don't stock those because they're not popular. It's not high fun.
Like, they know what they're doing.
But like you said, I mean, why does it have to be like all or nothing, right? And why do you have to build something that's going to operate at the scale of an Amazon or a Walmart? And if you can find content in the, I don't know, mediocrity is probably, like, that's been a vilified word, but in the in the mediocrity of, like, hey, there's market share there, and can you have enough of a variety in that it's actually like a viable business? I don't know if it'll be a massive business, but it could be viable.
Maybe. When did you guys know that Boulder was going to be big? Like, was there like an inflection point where you said, hey, this is just going to go?
Well, the industry we're in has been around for a long time, and it's got a proven track record. So we have enough, like, other companies to look at to be like, hey, this is the trend, and we can understand, like, cycles and so forth. So I think there is enough of it's not a crazy idea. So it's not a, proof of concept. Is this going to figure out? It's a well-known enough industry at the point that we started that made it easier. Whether our model was going to scale, like the way that we're doing it, and if people would care that we're doing this ethically, was a different question. And I'd say it was 2020 was insane for us. Like, we grew like crazy. 2020, 2021, like, we had, just a pipeline of business that showed the counter-cyclical behavior of our industry as well. It's kind of reassuring in a way. So when the US is under economic pressure, we tend to thrive because there's pressure on finding more economic ways of staffing your team or scaling, for sure. And just going through one of those cycles has been really reassuring. The next one is AI though, so there's a big like question mark over it again. So I don't know that. I know we're viable. I know we can do it. I think that any business, there are at these points, there's like revenue points, like to get from 3 to 5 million in top line revenue. There's this black hole, and it's really, really hard. And then once you're through that, and you kind of grow into the infrastructure that you've built, then you can go into that next wave. And it's just making each one of those you make it through. It's like, okay, we can do this. We got this.
There you go. It's expanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fascinating to hear. I mean, especially you guys have been through it so recently. Especially we were just talking about like the mediocre side, the medium-sized businesses, like deciding if you want to be there. But I guess like for you guys, the business took you there, and the market took you there. It wasn't like, I'm sure there's always a vision and a dream that we could be X, but you really start doing it when the market allows you to, right?
Yep.
And the market asked you to, so you did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when David started the company, he had a clear goal to grow this pretty quickly, and we still have a goal that we want to get to, $100 million in revenue. And there are reasons for that. So we do have like a clear like goal and strategy, and we are, flowing with the market as best we can and trying to adapt with these external circumstances like AI and like COVID. Like everything influences you in a different way, and you just got to be flexible through it.
Yeah, I think, and this is just a random hypothesis, if you'll permit me, but I think models like yours are going to work really, really well as a complement to AI, because you have such a basis and a grounding in process. And it just, my limited experience hiring overseas, if like certain areas with major BPO presences, like the Philippines, for example, like the team members we hire from there are just naturally better at process because they understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where AI is going a little crazy here in the West, because everybody's a pure innovator. So people who can apply structure and understand how training data needs to be used, I think that'll dovetail really in a complementary way for you guys.
Thank you. I'll take it. I definitely anticipate a shift to happen. There's a lot of work that has been easy to put in a lower cost region that is definitely ripe for automation, and it makes a ton of sense. And so there is the repetitive work that it makes sense from a business perspective. It makes sense from economic perspective. Like there's a lot of like reasons to automate it. The trickle-down effect that I'm curious to see how it's going to play out is, what does this do for entry-level jobs in this economy? Yeah. So these are the kind of things that's really easy for you without a college degree. Like you want to get into the work, into the workforce, and this is super easy. You don't need much of a qualification. You just need to like be able to follow process. And I'm curious, what is that role going to be in the future if it's not macro-enabled customer support or data entry type of work because of AI?
Yeah, it's going to be babysitting an AI. I think that's what's going to happen.
That's exactly it. And but what does babysitting AI look like, and what qualifications do you need, right? Is that an entry-level role, I think is the big question.
Yeah. So maybe this is our solve, right? We'll make Inconvenience Store's impact.
Yeah.
We'll have to, so it'll be AI driven logistics, and we'll make all the jobs supervising purchasing entry level.
There we go. I love it.
So it'll just be a red light, green light. If the number is higher than this, we don't buy. If it's, red, we do.
I love it.
So do we think there are legs to Inconvenience Stores if it is something that could responsibly stock what the big stores don't, so you have another place to go?
I think maybe. I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. I don't know if I'm going to take my pocketbook out and invest, but I'm curious.
Yeah. All right. So this one gets a 50-50.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for brainstorming with us. I think, everyone's going to check out your website because we've been talking about you guys the whole show. So we'll have that up here. But how do folks get in touch with you if they want to ask you more annoying questions like mine about, what you do and how you're growing and how you think about the market?
LinkedIn is a really easy way to find me. And do you want me to put my email address out there? I'm happy to do that.
No. Too many. You'll get so many emails.
I know, that's a lot. I think LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me personally if you find me there. But through our website, we have a contact us like type form, and that's a great way to get in touch with the right people that I can probably answer your questions better than I can.
And I'm sure, you guys, so this will probably air in like a month or a month and a half. Do you guys have any big trade show presences you'll be at mid-year or Q3?
Yeah, it's not super big, but it's really impactful in our space. There's one called Support Driven. And there's this Support Driven Expo in Las Vegas I think it's May or June. I'm not sure. And I know we are going to be at CCW Contact Center Week in Las Vegas as well, somewhere in the summer.
So people can just find you in Vegas, generally speaking.
Find us in Vegas, apparently. Like, there's so many trade shows that are in. We were just at Zendesk Relate last week as well. So Vegas seems to be the spot for customer support this year. Not my favorite place.
We'll see if we can get this out before those shows, and make sure your LinkedIn's up there. But thank you so much for hopping on and doing some brainstorming with us. Hope you had fun. We had great fun learning from you and learning about what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.